A television pilot is one of the most impossible challenges a writer can undertake. Imagine having to introduce a premise, world, and full cast of characters for a story that may require multiple seasons to tell to completion. How can a writer possibly cram all of this into the length of a single episode? It's this impossible dilemma that will prompt a skilled writer to structure a TV show pilot as a series of promises. The pilot's goal is to assure television producers and future audiences, if you'll come along for the ride, I will give you X, Y, and Z. The writer's ability to effectively lay out these promises is what makes or breaks a TV pilot. With this in mind, it's easy to understand why so many pilots are rough around the edges. Plot lines are rushed, characters drop in and out of nowhere, dialogue is overly expositional. Why? Because the writers are rushing to set up the promises. A writer is trying to sell us on the idea that the premise is riveting, the story world is exciting, and the characters are the coolest people we'll ever meet, sometimes in as little as 22 minutes. It's all of these factors that make this statement so utterly impressive. The pilot episode for the television series Monk is perfect. Not only is it one of the most effective pilots ever written, it's arguably one of the best episodes in the entire 8-series run of this award-winning show. But why? What is it that makes this pilot so perfect? How do the writers so effectively and efficiently set up the series' promises? In this video, we'll break these promises down as we look at premise, structure, tone, and character. Spoiler warning for the pilot of Monk, Mr. Monk and the Candidate. In my last video, we looked at how premise differs from a base idea, namely that for a premise to exist, there needs to be a but. Some internal conflict built into the core story concept that will force our characters to grow and change. The internal conflict of Monk is so integral that it's virtually impossible to describe the show without it. Such a description would sound something like, a former homicide detective solves crimes in San Francisco. This is the base idea for a show, but to complete the premise outline, we need that all-important internal conflict, that but that sets the show apart. A former homicide detective solves crimes in San Francisco, but he suffers from crippling obsessive-compulsive disorder. Monk's struggle with OCD is the linchpin of the show, that unique element that sets it apart from all the crime procedurals that came before. This is the first promise the pilot needs to establish, the premise promise. As first-time viewers, we need to be given this promise in a clear and efficient way. If you watch this show, you will see a brilliant detective solving crimes while battling his own obsessive mind. The writing of Monk's pilot is so brilliant and effective that we don't need to watch the whole episode to be given this promise. It's firmly established in the first scene, even the first line. Imagine you're watching a pilot for the first time. You don't know what the show is about, what genre it is, nothing. We open with police standing in a doorway, looking over a crime scene. We can now safely assume we're in a crime procedural. A group of uniformed officers stand on one side of the room. A man in a blazer stands alone at the other. We recognize from the language of film that we're being introduced to our protagonist. All eyes are on him as he examines the room. Before a word has been spoken, we've been told quite a bit. Via clever blocking and camera movement, we know who we're supposed to focus on, the man in brown. His presence at a crime scene and the respect being given him by law enforcement tells us he's a detective of some sort, yet he's separated from everyone else. He's working solo. This is peak efficient writing, key information conveyed to the audience without any spoken dialogue. Then, when we are given dialogue, it's a delightfully unexpected curveball. Best-selling novelist James Patterson says that if the audience figures out where you're going before you get there, you're dead. With this in mind, let's go back to our hypothetical first viewing of Monk's pilot. We've concluded that we're watching a detective show and our yet-to-be-named protagonist is examining the crime scene. Thus, when he speaks for the first time, we're expecting to get some question or observation about the crime. Instead, we get this.
The stove.
Over here. It's in the kitchen.
No, I mean my stove. I think I left it on.
This is how you grab your audience early. We have a detective examining the scene of a murder, and all he can think about is whether or not he left the stove on. What's going on?
I turned all the knobs.
Throughout the remainder of the scene, we see an absolute masterclass in efficiently laying out a premise promise. Monk brilliantly puts together a physical profile of the murderer by noticing details everyone else missed. while simultaneously battling overwhelming compulsions to touch a desk lamp and obsess over his kitchen stove.
Because you gotta hear the click, not just feel the click.
What takes most pilots an entire episode to convey, Monk does in a single brilliantly executed scene. This show is about a brilliant detective with crippling OCD. For a procedural show especially, episode structure is vital. If we're watching an episode of House, we'll open with someone experiencing bizarre symptoms. They'll be rushed to Dr. House, who will diagnose the issue, while being a jerk the whole time. The patient will seemingly improve, only to regress even worse at the midpoint of the episode. House will scramble to figure out what's really going on, still being a jerk, and at the last minute make the critical diagnosis that saves the patient's life. That, with some minor variations, sums up every episode of the 8-season run of House.
Quick! Before she goes without attention for 8 seconds.
Where Monk's pilot deviates most from what the series would become is in its episode structure. A typical episode of Monk begins with the unusual tactic of showing us who the killer is from the start, much like the show from which Monk draws inspiration, Columbo.
One more thing.
While we are often shown who the culprit is, we are denied exact knowledge of how they pulled off the crime. We then follow Monk as he begins investigating, usually determining who the culprit is fairly quickly. Monk then experiences setbacks around the midpoint, culprits with seemingly airtight alibis, elimination of key witnesses, etc. Monk is then forced to dig deep, overcoming his inner struggles to make the key deduction that cracks the case. Where Monk's pilot deviates from this structure is that it's more of a whodunit than what the series often was, a howdunit. In Mr. Monk and the Candidate, we don't know who hired the hitman until the final act. In making the structure promise, however, the pilot still delivers more than effectively for one simple reason. Every episode of Monk ultimately hinges on Monk experiencing setbacks due to his internal struggles, but rising to the occasion at the critical moment to solve the case. Monk's pilot delivers on this structure spectacularly, showcasing some of Monk's worst setbacks and most heroic triumphs, as he battles his way to the finish line. Other elements of Monk's episode structure, like the famous black and white "here's what happened" sequences, are also present from this initial episode. Tone is such a difficult element to master that some TV shows go their entire run without ever nailing it. The tone promise tells the audience, this is what you can expect to feel when you watch this show. It's the flavor of a story that sets the overall mood, dark, lighthearted, cerebral, fun-loving, etc. Most shows gradually establish tone over time, going through the growing pains until they finally hit that balance of emotions that provides their unique feel. The most impressive feat that Monk's pilot pulls off is the immediate establishment of tone. What's more impressive is what a difficult tone it is. Monk is essentially a black comedy, a lighthearted show dealing with some of the darkest materials, homicide and mental illness. Striking the balance between the comedic and the serious is a near impossible task. Too serious and the show is no longer a comedy. Too comedic and the cases no longer carry stakes. This balance of the serious and the comedic is struck brilliantly in Monk's pilot. The threats of assassin Ian Sykes and the unknown party who hired him are real and serious. At no point are these antagonists or the crimes being committed undercut for the sake of a joke. Threats are played perfectly straight with plenty of sequences of genuine tension and drama. At the same time, it's very difficult to find a funnier episode of Monk. The scene where Monk tries to keep it together while surrounded by a group of coughing children is one of the most hysterical of the entire series, and a testament to the writer's abilities to find comedy in ordinary situations, something that would become a staple for the entire run of the show. Tying all of this together is the sense of heart that permeates the core of the show. Adrian Monk is a flawed but ultimately good man who possesses the strength of character to rise above his struggles and help those he cares about. Conversely, Monk is blessed with a tight circle of friends who love and support him so that he doesn't have to struggle alone. This theme of loving others through their imperfections is present from the pilot episode onward. From the very beginning, the writers of Monk weren't afraid to embrace the sentimental with a genuine sincerity that's rare to come by. Ultimately, everything we've discussed has only been window dressing, the icing on the perfectly symmetrical cake cut evenly into 10 identical slices, the character of Adrian Monk. In our premise video, we discussed premise-driven narratives, stories driven by their central ideas and concepts. In this show, we're treated to the exact opposite, the character-driven story. It's right in the name. This show is about Monk, a brilliant, flawed, complex man trying to rise above his struggles to solve problems no one else can. From the very beginning, we are given this character promise. If you stick around, you will see a brilliant detective solve crimes while battling severe OCD. And actor Tony Shalhoub delivers on that promise. From the opening scene, Shalhoub is Monk. There's no fumbling around, no gradual discovering of the character over time. The character we see in the final episode of Monk is the character we're introduced to in the opening scene. There's a reason Shalhoub won 3 Emmys for this role. It's impossible imagining anyone else playing the eccentric detective. Monk's compulsions could make him irritating in less capable hands, but Shalhoub's portrayal makes him lovable, not annoying. It's the little smile when Sharona tells him he's doing a good job, the ways we see him fighting to overcome his phobias to prove he's capable of rejoining the police force. Characters who resonate are not those without struggles, but those who persevere despite their struggles. When Monk goes into the sewers to save Sharona, something that even someone without OCD would struggle to do, we know we're being promised a very special character, one who will make the journey fun, exciting, and heartwarming. In previous videos, many of you have left comments praising the video quality and editing. This is thanks to the skillful work of my friend and editor, Levi Montgomery. Levi and I are both fans of Monk, so this video is dedicated to him. I'll leave a link to his channel below if you'd like to check out more of his excellent work. So I hope this helps. Comment below on which show you believe has the best pilot, and subscribe for more writing tips.